Arrakis is a test. Few survive it. Arrakis is a test. Few survive it. But the humans that do awaken.
Arrakis is this unrelenting anvil against which people are beaten and shaped and forged into something that's stronger.
There's something very spiritual about that sand, which on the surface is really nothing, but underneath has a really diverse biological backstory.
One of my favorite lines from Frank Herbert is, when you end a novel, it's like a train coming into the station that doesn't stop. You just jam on the brakes and let the sparks fly into people's imagination. Arrakis is a test, is what the Fremen say. And the player comes right into the heart of that test. DUNE Awakening is a survival game at the base level. And it begins like a traditional survival game, you know, like you're looking for water, you're looking for shelter. You know, where will you find water in the desert? Will you take it from others? So when we talk about survival, sure, we start with the basic kind of survive. And then when you've survived long enough, it's now time to think about political survival and how you progress within the universe. The approach we take when building a world like Arrakis is we kind of have to think about where are the stark lines and how do we draw these epic spaces? How do we make them feel huge and the player feels dwarfed by everything they see around them? Using Unreal 5 to create a game is obviously one of the better choices. Unreal 5 gives us flexibility through the blueprinting system. It allows us to handle amazing graphics through the rendering system, the lighting system such as Lumen. Lumen technology allows proper light bouncing. If I had to say one thing in the game that really benefits from Lumen, it's player crafted spaces. In our case, it's like you build a room and you place a window and the window lets in natural light and the light will fill the room in a way that feels real. And that technology hasn't existed before. Before Unreal 5, in the olden days, you had to use what we called the LOD system. And that meant that you had to create assets at different LOD levels, so it doesn't slow down everybody's computer. With Unreal 5, we have this new technology called nanite that breaks things down into the right amount of polygons at the right distance. So for us, as a company, this has made an amazing difference to the visual detail of the world. It allows us to create one really amazing looking cliff piece, for example, and then doesn't matter how far away or how close we place it, it performs well and it looks great. The most iconic creature in the Dune universe is the sandworm of Arrakis. And so we've tried to represent this in the game in multiple ways. So as a player, your first steps on the open sand, you hear the hiss of the sand in the distance as the sandworm begins to move towards you. And when it gets close, you hear the roar as it erupts from the sand nearby. And at that point, you have only seconds to live if you cannot make it to rocky ground. So this is your first experience with sandworms. And these are the little ones. When you go into the deep desert, when you're harvesting spice, the giant ring-mouth sandworms that we've seen in the film, will erupt underneath the spice blows and suck harvesters and equipment down into the sand beneath them. There's really only one rule. The sandworm will always come. Like, we have melee, we have ranged, and we have abilities, and we also have vehicles, right? So players can use any combination of these in combat, right? So it's kind of creates this interesting dynamic. So you can learn abilities from the great schools of the universe and learn how to be a Bene Gesserit, compelling your enemies to come close to you so that you can stab them with a knife. And you combine so you're combining melee with abilities there, right? Or you can be a sword master and leap in with a knee charge, knocking people to the ground and then stabbing them. Or you can choose to be like a trooper and you use your Shigawai reel to pull you up like a grappling hook, to pull you to high places where you can shoot down on your enemies with sniper rifles and shotguns. So there's a large variety of weapons that you can craft through our intricate crafting system, in addition to these abilities that you learn as you level up your character. So you kind of have this freedom of choice, and that's really what Combined Arms is all about. It's sandbox combat. Well, you just have to find the right trainer in the world who'll teach you these things. So you choose in character creation, you make a choice of who was your mentor when you were young, and then you choose one of the things, and that determines your set of starting abilities. But then when you play the game, you find trainers in the world. You have to do things for them, but then they'll eventually teach you some of the way, the path that can take you down some of these skills and abilities, yeah.